The surface of Mars is like Chernobyl. It's what the surface of Chernobyl is like. Indisputable evidence of a massive use of nuclear weapons on the planet. Today it's difficult to imagine the existence of living organisms on Mars, but the latest research has confirmed that billions of years ago, this redstone world was a most favorable place than even the early Earth for biological life forms to develop on it. Where did everything disappear to, and what does nuclear weapons have to do with Mars? Nuclear destruction? Scientists do not exclude that life on Mars originated earlier than our planet. They found on it a wide distribution of minerals with a certain concentration of atoms on crystalline surfaces, most effectively forming the structures of RNA, one of the key molecular components of living organisms. NASA also conducted studies of deep Martian rocks, and as a result, a representative of the space agency announced that several million years ago, the surface of the red planet was covered with forests, frogs splashing in lakes, and fishes in rivers, and then suddenly everything died. Initially, it was believed that the planet was left without an atmosphere by a satellite that fell on it. However, the latest discovery, a celestial object that fell on it, but the latest discoveries made by rovers and orbiters force us to reconsider this theory. Apparently, the catastrophe did not happen in an instant, and there was more than one. John Brandenburg, a nuclear particle physicist, concluded that ancient life on Mars was destroyed by a series of nuclear explosions. Analyzing the Martian atmosphere and showing that it contained xenon-129 isotopes in large quantities, exactly the same concentration of this element was recorded on Earth after the accident that occurred at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant near Kiev, Ukraine, when Ukraine was still a part of USSR. Now, on the surface of Mars, thorium and uranium were found in abundance. Nuclear reactor. The Brandenburg study says that this number of isotopes in the atmosphere of the red planet Mars indicates that a series of impressive nuclear explosions destroyed the ancient settlements in two parts of Mars, in the area of Utopia and the area of Sidonia. The professor believes that the red color of the surface of Mars testifies in favor of the explosions that have occurred there. In Africa, for example, on the territory of Gabon, there is the Oklo region. About 1 billion years ago, a natural nuclear reactor functioned there. There was a uranium deposit in that place, and underground water interacted with it, cooling and slowing down the neutron flux. This did not allow the reaction to pass the critical threshold. Thus, plutonium has been produced for several million years. According to Brandenburg, there is evidence that a similar reactor has formed in the western hemisphere of Mars, in the northern sea of Aquidalia, only it was much larger and produced uranium-233 from thorium. Subsequently, it collapsed as a result of the explosions that occurred. As a result, a huge amount of radioactive substances was thrown to the surface. Regular processes. The ore body that existed at the bottom of the Sea of Aquidalia remained intact, since there is no tectonic movement of plates on Mars. It consisted of concentrated uranium, thorium, and potassium. The physicist connects the onset of the nuclear reaction with the penetration of groundwater into the ore body at a time when the proportion of uranium-235 was 3%. A few 100 million years later, this natural reactor began to produce uranium-233 and plutonium-239 faster than it could burn. The water boiled away, the neutron flux increased, and as a result, radioactive isotopes of potassium began to form in huge quantities. A spontaneous chain reaction began. The energy was released with catastrophic force, as much ash and dust was ejected as is ejected from an asteroid impact. Brandenburg compared this event to the fall of a 30-kilometer asteroid. All radioactive dust and debris enriched with thorium and uranium settled in a thick layer on a significant part of the surface of Mars. And in the region of the Acetal Sea, a depression 400 kilometers in diameter formed. Its depth is not as great as that of impact craters, since the explosions were close to the surface. Many scientists were quick to disagree with the American physicist Lars Borg, for example, from the Livermore National Laboratory, says that the specific composition of the atmosphere and surface of Mars may not be associated with a nuclear reaction after all, but with ordinary geological processes. Martian meteorites have been studied for 15 years, and their isotopic composition is known just as much, but no one imagined that a natural nuclear explosion could have occurred on Mars. This is by Solask. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.